Hello, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a solid 2 years of no content. It's been a long time, actually, you know, focusing on other things, doing other things, and a lot has changed. You can probably hear that I've changed quite a lot, and if any viewers sticking around, you've changed. So the content's changed, the channel's changed. Like Stampy once said, and I'm going to horrifically paraphrase this because I don't usually paraphrase YouTubers that I stopped watching when I was 6, but people can't say that something's bad because there's change, because we all change, or something like that. I don't know, I don't really look at him for any philosophical reasons. But we're going to jump into Timberborn because I thought, you know, I enjoy this game, could make a video out of it, so why not? I think we'll start with a cool map that I've never used. Let's do 1,000 Islands, that sounds fun. Anyone that's anyone that knows about this game will know that, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting city builder, an interesting sort of survival sim, a little bit of real-time strategy, but nothing on the Total War level, if that's what you're wondering. And quite frankly, it's alright. They've essentially slapped together city settlement and changed the assets to beavers and called it a different game, but let's face facts, that's pretty much the gaming industry nowadays. So, in the true fashion of not being too egotistical, let's get the words right, I'm going to call it Benland because, well, you know, everywhere should be named after the person that created it. So, let's build some pathways because they have such high intellect that they can't really go anywhere unless it has a path, which kind of makes sense, but at the same time doesn't make sense at all. So let's build some lumberjack flags, or outposts as I think would be a better name, but you know, what can you do? And these would essentially collect wood, as you would expect a lumberjack to do. They're also obviously beavers, so that's literally their purpose in life. And then of course to build dams, which in this situation will be, oh wow, across this raging torrent. I mean, this is quite the river plain, I must say. And then it sort of breaks off. Obviously, anyone that's a fan favourite of the beaver animal will know how much of an impact they have on their environmental ecosystems, or whatever you want to call them. So no, it's cool, but this is a decent map. You know, we have a little bit of island hopping that we could do here, and one day if they manage to survive and actually do stuff, then we could hop over to that. But of course, in the true fashion of this game, we've got to get lots of wood, because wood is essentially all that beavers are good with, because you know, what else are they really good for? So let's get some wood, let's get some farmers, because the one thing you also realise is resource management is a big thing in this game. It's a big thing because you run out of stuff pretty quickly. You run out of water, you run out of food, and if you're not careful, you run out of wood. If you run out of wood and you have what you use as science points, which is pretty self-explanatory at this point, you can't really progress. And then you end up pressing, what, Alt Shift Z and getting the development console, and oh no, I've accidentally given myself 1,000 science and researched all of it. But that's not what we're here to do today. We're here to play the game in some decent fashion, and then, well, we'll see where it takes us. So we've got to build some water storage towers, because otherwise they're all going to die of dehydration. Next up, build a farm. Building farms gets us food. Food's very good, and in the true fashion of, I don't know, gaming, let's put carrots down. Not sure why that was said, but, you know, in my hilarious fashion, it makes sense. Anyway, so we're just going to build a small warehouse, because at this point we don't really need a big one. A big point of this game, obviously, like I just said, is resource management. And that means stockpiling stuff. That means, quite frankly, anything that you can get your hands on, you've got to then find a sustainable way of making it. Which means So for example, look at this. We need the forester so we can plant trees, so then we don't need to rely on this finite little collection of woodland. Although we can go up that path, but that will take a bit of rethinking. So what you need to be able to do is find sustainable ways of getting resources, which is, you know, quite good for people learning about, I don't know, good things in society, I don't know, stupid stuff like that. Once you have that, then you can begin to build your population. One thing that I do a lot of the time, because I play this game too much, is I slap down loads of houses. Houses, they bring you population because, well, we all know what beavers will do in a house alone together. And then you get lots of baby beavers, and then you get lots of beavers, and suddenly you've got a population boom. That's fantastic, until you realise, oh damn, beavers need to eat, which, well, was quite unfair really, but, you know, you've got to satisfy basic essential needs in some way. I know, it's boring, but then you've got to get more food. And without sustainability, well, you're kind of scuppered. And then you've got to, you know, Alt-Shift-Z, kill 30% of the population, and then wham wham wham, you've got less food requirements. So, you know, you find ways out of a sticky situation quite quickly. But look at this. We can build a path. Very interesting path there, that is. But we can build a path, and then we can go up there and get more wood. And once we have more wood, well, we can see where that takes us. But we also need science. Science is very important, because without science, well, we can't really research stuff, and we all know what happens when you can't research stuff. So once we've got that, we can then get more cool stuff that beavers never used. So then now we need to get this lumber mill working. So we can get this forester, we can plant trees and get more wood. This farmer's not doing much. Carrots take time to grow, which is really quite irritating. Probably the best food source, I'd say. They're pretty quick. And obviously, in the true fashion of stealing from other games, they've made it the most OP food source you can get. That definitely doesn't happen in any other games. Minecraft. So that was quite the coherent cough I accidentally just did. Because, think about Minecraft for a second. You get carrots, well, you're sorted, really. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you can't really live on wheat. I mean, you can, but it's not really aesthetically pleasing to live on bread, is it? You know, there's no real roleplay aspect in Minecraft, and everyone likes to roleplay in Minecraft. And then obviously, in the true fashion of being original, which I think to the most part this game is, okay, some part we'll change the words up a bit. You make dams. Because that's also what beavers do. So they have kind of stolen that from, you know, the Nature Channel, but we've got to sort of keep in the limits of realism here, and the dams aren't going to be that good. I think the first dam you can build isn't even controllable. You just sort of smash it across there, and then smash it across there, and it will keep water up to a level of 1. So if you look there, there's a little gap. I can't hold the camera here for some reason. I mean, it's absolutely peak game development that you've got to look down like this. I mean, it's in the true fashion of a city builder, which I get, yes. And I get it's kind of... If this was really zoomed out and looked a bit more realistic, you could mistake it for city skylines, but I don't think we've got that far yet of realism. I mean, let's face facts, people. It is a beaver game. What are you really expecting from it? But we can do decent stuff, and in the true fashion of science, we can even go mining. We can build observatories, build robots. Quite frankly, none of this stuff I've ever touched because I'm not that good at this game. One thing you obviously learn if you've been a feature of the channel, not a feature, an audience member, or if you even watched any of, if you know me at all. I'm not very good at video games. I play a lot of them, and some I'm decent at. Take Civ 6, take Minecraft, take GTA, they're alright. But anything difficult, and I'm not calling this difficult, believe me, this is not difficult. I mean, it's a beaver game, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's not going to be difficult, but you know what I'm saying. It's not exactly, you know, you can quite easily fail at this game. It's a fragile game design because, you know, you take it in comparison to another game that's fragile, which I can't really think about right now. Well, I'm sure it'll come back to me. You know, a few slip-ups in the early game and you can just completely lose out. I suppose it's a bit similar to City Skylines in the fact that if you don't, I don't know, design the electricity system or the water system, you spend too much money on infrastructure. You don't budget correctly, you don't do your taxes correctly. Whatever you do, if you don't do it right early game, it can affect everything else. And that is so prevalent in this game because, quite frankly, well, you know, don't get enough water, don't get enough food, and you're kind of scuppered. So I'm going to actually follow my own advice for once and try and do that. Oh look! They're happier than ever, and I care so much about that because, well, there's got to be some level of morals on this channel, so yay! I definitely would not just trade that in for more food or other assorted resources, but, you know, what can you do really? I've got to build more water towers. Oh yes, we've got nowhere to store the cows. That's pretty stupid, isn't it? So, lots of building. I think we should get more wood beavers. Although, let's be honest, every single beaver should be collecting wood at this point. It's not. It's what beavers do. And they also need to breed. The other type of beaver you can get, which isn't really a beaver, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the grey thing. It's like the... I don't even know. I'm not even going to try and make up something because I'll just end up saying something potentially offensive in my usual fashion of using a word without knowing its meaning. That doesn't actually happen, although it totally does. But the point is, you know, there's not really a massive point to it. It's just sort of making conversation. I don't know if anyone's actually listening, but quite frankly, that is what YouTube is. It's talking to a microphone, thinking it's someone else, and believing that you sound cool and you sound funny and the content you're making is somewhat worthwhile in watching, which to the most part I believe mine is, but quite frankly this is a channel that hasn't had any content for 2 years and now suddenly gets a video game about beavers. I mean, seriously? I mean, obviously I want people to watch this stuff, but I'm not going to take my own advice. Like, come on people, there's other stuff to watch. But if you are here, bloody good show, well done for finding some peak content on the platform, because quite frankly there's nothing like this. Well, that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's not my judgment, that's purely yours. But no, the original thing I was saying, there are these grey beavers, and they're sort of not beavers, they're really strong and they can't breed normally. They sort of put them, they're young or they're reproducing things in these weird pods and then they come out after ages and it's weird, but they're cool and they have special things. But either way, yes, that's what I was trying to say. So breeding they should already be doing, but they're not, because they're very, very irritating. So we've got to build more houses, more space, because everyone wants basic living accommodation. Ugh. But in the spirit of being morally righteous, we're going to build it anyway. And then, of course, we've got to think about the drought. The big part of this game, obviously, is damming, because you're playing with beavers. And quite frankly, what would be the point of a beaver game without a challenge? The challenge of this game comes in the form of drought. So all this water here that comes from some source up here, look at that realism. You would get a clip of David Attenborough walking up to that, looking over the abyssal void and saying, "Here, the water source is formed, and all the water comes out, and this is what feeds everything." Then anyway, this water will go. And like what happens in a drought, when the water goes, the land dries up. All of these channels, all of these little lakes and streams will be gone, and so will this, which means all the arable land that we have now will be gone. All the beavers that feed, well, drink upon these little pumps won't be able to, because there won't be anything to pump up. So you need to dam the water and well, ensure that you survive. But obviously you can't always do that, and to be quite frank, I don't know how useful a dam here is going to be, because, well, the Thalweg's there. So you dam off this, the water channel's just going to go there, and it's just going to leave. Really, the place you want to dam is, I suppose, at minimum there, but then if you then slow the velocity of the water down here, it could just shoot out that way. So, quite frankly, you've got quite the engineering job. Building a dam all the way up here, maybe bridge out here, come up here, and build a dam there. Now you might be thinking, oh, that's an idea, that could be cool. It's not. The one issue I have with this game that it really does annoy me is districts. Now, this might look sizable, and to be completely honest, it's not actually that bad. The issue is if I wanted to go to this part of the island, well, this island, I should say, and I wanted to go to these far reaches of it, not really that far away at all, I'd need to build another district, because the ranges aren't that good. I don't know why they did that, and if we look at it from a developing standpoint, you could say, oh well, it gives a bit more of a challenge, and it means you have to have multiple districts that bring and collect goods, like you have these distribution and drop-off points. But then, in the pure sight of convenience, you do not get that, and instead you have to build 2 or 3 districts to cover a decently sizable landmass, which, quite frankly, is ridiculous. You play some games on some maps where it's just a flat plain and you have to build 3 districts to get to certain resources. So it is something they could change, but I don't think they will, because this game is like 5 years old. But either way, it's a bit of an issue. The other issue, obviously, is that beavers sometimes don't do anything, and they don't do their jobs. So, obviously there's no capital punishment for beavers. I mean, obviously there's no asking them to be better beavers, so we've just got to accommodate their needs in the true spirit of, I don't know, community. That's not really community, is it? I mean, they're being very bloody selfish, but, you know, what can you do? And now they're going to sleep. Actually, no, you're not. We're going to set your working hours up. And it's quite an easy solution, really. You need to be getting this lumber so we can build these warehouses, these lodges, these water pumps, storage, and this dam, because look up there, folks, top right, the forecast is drought incoming. Now, the drought has 2.8 days. Now, under my logic, that's what, 48 hours plus 8/10 of 24, which is 8 times 2.4, which is some, I don't know, stupid old decimal. That's not a lot of time, and we're not going to be able to do that in that time. We've got not a lot of stuff. They haven't bred, they haven't had food, there's not really much water, so depending on how long the drought lasts, depends on how long they'll last, quite frankly. Droughts in this game can last, well, as you progress, I think up to like 8 days, which is absolutely insane. But then again, you look at some saves, and 8 days is fine, because you can get to a point where you have a dam across here, a dam across here, a dam across there. And because you have all of this sort of staged damming, you can trap so much water, rise the normal water levels, and you can be fine. You get certain things like irrigation towers, which are here. Okay, I can't even show you now, but essentially you plop them down and they do what they say on the tin, or the side of the wooden shaft, or whatever you call it. They essentially irrigate the land, which means in technicality, if you get enough water storage, which you can get up to these big, large tanks that you need metal and cogs for, which is not very easy. But you get to that stage, and to be completely honest, you don't really care about droughts anymore. It's one of those games where the early game is the hardest. Now, that could sort of sound really self-explanatory. I suppose the hardest part of the game that you have to deal with in this is when you've got a population growth and you haven't necessarily got that the resource growth that would come with that, you'd hope. And because of that, you then have to worry about your beavers dying of thirst or hunger. You can obviously have them die of old age, but that's fine, really. Some of the water really drying up, that's ridiculous. But no. And then you get to a point in the game, after a while, probably after the sort of middle stages of the beginning, where you begin to get more sustainable resources. You begin to trap more water, you begin to trap more, not trap food, but you know what I'm saying. You be able to get more food and trap. And essentially, you know, you can also get quite technologically advanced with electricity, with even mining. If you take a look at these sites here, you get metal scraps from them, and then you look at these sites where you can put a mine over them, and then essentially mine up lots of cool little cool things. Whatever humans were doing down there, it sure required lots of metal. It sure did, apart from when they used wood. But we don't go into that because it would be too logical for beavers to use the one resource they're associated with using to do an activity that isn't actually that hard. But either way, I'm not a game developer, so I can't really talk. 2.7 days. Now, that isn't great. I'm going to turn down working hours a lot because I don't want them going out and using all of their energy. A massive issue isn't food. Food's all right. We've got around 170, and that's going to go up because we've got a little surplus of still decent cows, but they are drying out. We have a little stockpile of berries, but not really good enough. The big issue, obviously, is water. We've used almost half the water in the day. No, in 0.6 days, we've used almost half the water. Now, I'm no biological expert, I'm no survivalist, but you die from water loss quicker than you die from food loss. So if this was essentially, you know, swapped around, we could be okay. And I think we might be. As long as we have 2 beavers and one works in water, one works in food, you should be fine. Because you can obviously, you know, with 2, well, you all know what happens, and if you don't know what happens, then maybe you shouldn't be watching the channel, but at this point, with 2, you're going to be able to get back that loss, and we could kill off 30% of the beavers to retain some food, but I think that would take away from the point of the video if we cheated, because cheating's not good, and I definitely don't cheat in any other games to make it more fun. Although, to be quite frankly honest, I think games are a bit more about having fun than they are for the challenge, but people would obviously disagree with me, and these esports gamers would obviously disagree with me. But, you know, each to their own, I guess. In terms of this, it's a seemingly very easy game that turns into something very difficult. But I think we will have a look to see if they survive. I imagine they will. 0.7 days, they'll be fine without water, and no one's died. Well, they've recuperated the losses, haven't they? Anyone KIA'd has now just been replaced by a new beaver. So, quite frankly, it's just it's the circle of life, really. And if I did have access to some peak stock music, I'd be able to put a wonderful song on right now. But obviously I don't, and I don't want a copyright strike this early on in the career. Although it's not really that early on, it's very delayed early on. It's been 2 years. And I do hope to make more videos, because it is quite fun and it's something to do, and we'll see where it takes us. We'll see if these kind of videos are cool. I do like Timberborn. I would like to try out Civ 6, maybe some of the police simulators like, well, the originally named Police Simulator, or whatever it's called. And then of course you have Flashing Lights, which is brilliant, and maybe even one day LSPDFR again, because LSPDFR is really, really good fun. Obviously anyone that's in the modding community knows It's one of the most painful things, but it's really good fun. Now, as we see, the water comes back down. It recuperates the land, and suddenly, oh wow, it's not droughty anymore, in the true fashion of biology or geography, whatever the hell you want to call it. The water comes down, and thanks to these dams, nothing really happens because it's not completed, because they're too bloody slow. But on the upside, they're not all dead, I don't think. Well, they're going to be if they don't get to work. I mean, come on, get a move on. Yes, build up the water. And once we got more water, oh right, there's no beavers. That's why there's no wood. Brilliant. Well, I think we can just... Yeah, another big thing about this game that if you're going to get it, you should know priority of jobs. You also get priority of construction. Now, they're both very self-explanatory terms, but they're very crucial. In a situation like this, where you have massive fragility and just a general consensus of insecurity about the survivability of your settlement, it is very important to keep swapping jobs and moving from district to district depending on resource availability. Because, you know, this game in itself is really about resource management than it is about city settlement, or sort of settlement management. I suppose you could say that about every settlement game, but because this has much more of a focus on nature, being a game about animals, I suppose the resource management is a lot more key to it. Look at a game like City Settlement, and it's almost about building the economy. It's about building the people and the culture that live there. So I think, in essence, if you're not looking for a really... not difficult, because it's not that difficult. Well, I'm sort of sods-law that I said that, but it's not difficult in comparison to other ones, but it's also not easy by any means. If you're looking for an easy game, I wouldn't get it. But I hope that little snippet gave you an insight into the game. Maybe we'll continue Benland, maybe we won't, we'll have to see. And I think this is a good indicator of where the channel will go. Maybe this could become... you know, maybe we could restart the content creation in the sort of stream of videos that we were doing before. But I hope you all enjoyed that. And if you did, please feel free, although I'm obviously going to push it on you like every other YouTuber, to like, subscribe, and I don't know if anyone actually does this anymore, but turn the notification bell on. It really doesn't help, because I don't know if you turn the notification bell on, but I've got to say it because everyone else does. So, I hope you liked it. Please enjoy the rest of the day, or the evening, or the morning, whatever you do. Have a good time, and thank you for watching.